In the spring of 1999, John F. Kennedy Jr. was not the man the tabloids wanted you to see. They sold you the handsome son, the shirtless jogger, the celebrity heir playing at adulthood. But behind the magazine covers and the paparazzi shots, JFK Jr. was building something serious. And the people who knew him best believed he was about 3 years away from becoming the most dangerous man in American politics. To understand what JFK Jr. was constructing, you need to understand what he refused to do first. After graduating from NYU Law and passing the bar on his third attempt, which the tabloids never let him forget, John could have walked into any law firm in America. He could have joined a Kennedy political machine that was practically begging for fresh blood. His uncle Ted had the infrastructure. The donor network was there. The family name was an open invitation. He said no. Not yet. John had already built George magazine into a 400,000-reader platform and a political networking machine, as we covered earlier in this series. But what matters for this story isn't the magazine itself. It's what it gave him. Through George, JFK Jr. had built relationships with every major political figure in the country. Democrats, Republicans, anyone interesting. He'd sat across from them at dinners and asked the questions that political insiders were afraid to ask. By 1998, he had a political network that no 38-year-old in America could match. And he was about to use it. Here's what almost nobody talks about. JFK Jr. was systematically building a political career. Not loudly, not in the way his father or uncle had. Quietly, strategically. He had conversations with Democratic Party leaders about running for office. Not someday, soon. The seat everyone talked about was the U.S. Senate seat in New York. The one that would open when Daniel Patrick Moynihan retired in 2000. John was the overwhelming favorite. Polls showed him crushing any opponent. The Democratic establishment wanted him badly. But John was careful. He'd watched his cousin Joe Kennedy II flame out of a congressional race in Massachusetts. He'd seen how the Kennedy name could be a trap, how it created expectations that no human being could meet, and how the press would turn on you the moment you stumbled. So he studied. He talked to advisors. He built George into a credential that proved he understood policy, not just celebrity. He wanted to enter politics on his own terms, with his own identity, not as his father's ghost. There's a detail that most people miss. John didn't just want to be a senator. People close to him said he saw the Senate as a stepping stone. The real goal, the thing he talked about in private, the thing that made his friends nervous and excited in equal measure, was the presidency. A Kennedy, back in the White House, and not because of the name, because of the work. None of this was happening in a vacuum. JFK Jr.'s political ambitions were inseparable from his life with Carolyn. By 1999, the mounting political pressure was changing everything in their marriage. Carolyn had already endured 3 years of relentless paparazzi, as we've seen, but now the stakes were escalating. A Senate run would mean the scrutiny would get worse, not better. It would mean Secret Service. It would mean campaign events, public appearances, a loss of whatever thin privacy she still had. What the tabloids didn't show was how Carolyn responded to this pressure. She was sharp, politically savvy, and brutally honest with John in ways that his sycophantic circle never was. She told him when an idea was bad. She pushed back. She was, in many ways, the person keeping him grounded as the political machine ramped up around him. But she was also struggling. She had stopped going out in public without anxiety. She told friends she felt like a prisoner. The idea of becoming a political wife terrified her, and yet she stayed. Not because she had to, because she believed in what John was building. Friends said she knew exactly what she had married into, and she had made her choice. She just hadn't expected the cost to be this high. This was the tension at the center of JFK Jr.'s life in 1999. The political future was taking shape, the personal cost was mounting, and the clock was ticking toward a decision that would define everything. By July 1999, JFK Jr. was closing in on the biggest decisions of his life. George magazine was in trouble financially. Advertising had dropped, Hachette Filipaki was losing patience, and John was in negotiations to either save the magazine or let it fold gracefully. Some saw this as failure, but others saw it as clearing the decks. If George ended, there was nothing left standing between John and a political campaign. The Moynihan Senate seat was wide open. Hillary Clinton had announced she was exploring a run, but she was an outsider, an Arkansas transplant who had never lived in New York. John, born in the White House, raised in Manhattan, was the hometown candidate. If he announced, most analysts believed Clinton would step aside. He hadn't decided yet. He told friends he was 90% there. He wanted to talk to Carolyn one more time. He wanted to make sure she was ready for what was coming. He wanted to go to his cousin Rory's wedding that weekend, clear his head, and come back with an answer. On Friday, July 16, 1999, John loaded his plane at Essex County Airport. Carolyn and her sister Lauren were with him. They were heading to Martha's Vineyard. The haze was thickening over the ocean as they lifted off into the twilight. We know how that flight ended, but this episode isn't about the crash. That story has been told. This is about what was in the air that night. Not just an airplane, but an entire future. A Senate campaign, a political career that was being built with more care and intelligence than any Kennedy before him. A marriage that was bending under impossible pressure but hadn't broken. A man who was 3 years, maybe less, from becoming the most compelling political figure of his generation. All of it was in that plane. All of it went into the water. Next time, in our final episode, we'll look at what America lost when JFK Jr. died, and why, 27 years later, we still haven't gotten over it. Subscribe to Stories and Facts. The story isn't over yet.